What's up, party people on YouTube? This is Joshy Red from Shedline Media. Today we're doing a quick review of, quite honestly, one of the best top-mounted budget microphones I've seen yet for DSLRs and iPhones. It's the Comica CVM VM20, and I can't wait to share it with you. And just to get this out of the way, Comica did send me a copy of the VM20. However, the thoughts and opinions of this review are my own, and Comica will not see this review before it goes live. So for anybody who's a DSLR shooter or a mirrorless camera shooter, you're probably used to the pretty garbage microphones that come on in the inside of the camera. So for example, I'm using the Sony ones right now. You can hear them on the Sony a7S III. And that currently is sitting at about 4 feet away with the levels turned all the way up to 20, and it's kind of tinny and really thin compared to when I plug in and have my Sennheiser connected to the camera. So if that's you, you probably recognize the problem and you're like, man, I gotta find a good audio solution. So if you don't have a camera that supports something like an XLR input on the top, and you don't want to be lugging around an H6 like I have currently on the top of my a7S III, you're probably going to be looking for something like a Rode VideoMic Pro or a Rode VideoMic Go, or something like the Comica VM20, which is a top-mounted microphone and really, quite honestly, a pretty impressive little guy. So let's talk quickly about what's in the package that you get. You get this wonderful soft hard case. Wonderful oxymoron. It's got a nice zipper enclosure, keep everything contained, some foam inserts on the inside. And here's what you'll find on the inside. First and foremost, you have obviously the microphone itself, the Comica CVM VM20. This is about 6 inches, and you know, size-wise, you can kind of see it in comparison with my Canon EOS R6 with an adapter and a 35mm Tamron lens on it. It's about the same length. You really don't want it much longer than that, because if it gets longer than that, the shotgun could actually end up being in the shot, which is never great. I have to say, first and foremost, the build quality on this is fantastic. It has a fully metal material construction, which is great for shielding frequencies and sound outside of the microphone itself. This is a pretty fantastic job at that. You just feel it, and it feels like it's got some quality, similar to what I have with the Sennheiser here. So the build quality is definitely something to be touted. It's also very stable and durable. You don't feel like if you drop it, it's gonna break. I wouldn't recommend dropping it because it might break, but it feels like you're pretty solid. Next thing in the box, we also have this microphone foam cover that'll cover over the top of the microphone. It's gonna help with the plosives, sibilances, and do some protection from wind on windy days. But on top of that, if you really wanted to have that extra wind protection, it actually comes with a windsock that you can put right over the foam insert and have a nice little windsock on that guy. So you can put this right on top with a little windsock, have just that extra level of protection from the wind. It also comes with 2 cables. Now these are 3.5mm jacks, and they are coiled 3.5mm cables. They're about 9 inches with the coil in, but they can expand out. One of the angles on both of these is a right angle. So that's great for going into the side of your camera or going into your cell phone if you're using this with like an iPhone. One of them is a TRS to TRS cable. So that's gonna be used specifically for your cameras like your Canon, your Sony, your DSLR cameras. And the other one is actually a TRS to TRRS, and that's going to be used for something like your iPhone because those accept the TRRS signal. So right out the box, you're already set to go with the proper cables to hook this up to whatever you're shooting with. The other thing that it comes with is a USB-C to USB cable, and that's going to be used to charge the battery that is inside of the mic. So there actually is a fully rechargeable lithium battery in the inside, and at least according to Comica, it touts 60 hours of battery life, which is absolutely phenomenal, especially for this guy. You don't have to keep continuously recharging it. And the last thing I want to make sure you're aware of that comes inside the pack is a wonderful shock mount that actually connects to the hot shoe. But along with the hot shoe on the inside here, you'll see a little 1/4-inch screw. You can attach it to a light stand. You can attach it to a tripod mount if you wanted to. If, for example, I have my Sennheiser here, which is coming in as a boom for the audio on this video. I could take this, attach it to a light stand like that, have it come in as like the boom for my shot away from the camera, and just get an extension 3.5mm cable to draw the line all the way to the camera. But that being said, this is a great addition to be able to have this as a top-mounted microphone that I could just mount directly to the top of the camera, and then Bob's your uncle. I'm off and running. There's a few things to notice. On the side here, you have the USB-C out, that's for charging the battery. You have the output for the 3.5mm jack to plug it into your camera or into your cell phone. On the back side here, there's a really awesome feature. It's actually a volume dial that allows you to dial up the gain that is going out from the microphone. So whatever the audio you're picking up, you can actually set the volume here, which is great for when you're running and gunning, and if you're dealing with situations where the volume just peaks randomly, you don't have to adjust the volume in the camera. You can just slide this dial all the way back down. One of my critiques about this is I really wish that the number was on the dial rather than the number being on the barrel, because there's a little red line indicator here that points to the volume setting that it's at, but the volume numbers wrap all the way around to the bottom. So if I have this top mounted up here, unless I'm gonna spin my microphone, I don't really know exactly what number it is, if it's down in that 1, 2, 3 range. 4 through 7 are visible from the top, but I have to kind of tilt my head to get to the other numbers to see where I'm set at. So a minor inconvenience compared to something like the Rode microphone that mounts on top, where you do have the ability to see that dial number at the very top so you can tell what volume setting you're on. The other things that you have on the microphone itself, you have 2 low cut filters, one at 75 Hertz and one at 150 Hertz. If you need a situation where you need to cut out some of that bass region and you don't have time or the ability to do it in post, given whatever situation you might be in, this might be a good option to cut out some of that bass. What I do find about the frequency response on this microphone is that it does tend to be a little bit more boomy. And that doesn't bother me normally, because I can just EQ that out if I need to, and I actually kind of like the sound of that low end. But you have the ability to cut out that 75 Hertz range and 150 Hertz range. Last but not least, you have this power button, which you just plug that on, and you'll actually see a little blue light indicator here that's telling us that the power is on, and you actually see a battery, an OLED battery indicator to show you how much battery life you have left. So, just how good is it? Let's listen to some samples. All right, for this test of the Comica VM20, we're gonna read a little excerpt from Who Moved My Cheese by Spencer Johnson. Once, long ago in a land far away, there lived 4 little creatures who ran through a maze, looking for cheese to nourish them and make them happy. 2 were mice, named Sniff and Scurry, and 2 were little people, beings who were as small as mice, but who looked and acted a lot like people today. Their names were Hem and Haw. All right, so what we're hearing right now is a current test of the camera mic on the Canon EOS R6. This is, again, just using the on-camera microphone right now. It's set to a manual like pickup, and it's currently, the manual settings are at 50%, so it'll probably sound a little bit lower, but you'll hear it sound pretty wide. It doesn't sound very in your face or directional. Again, that's probably because of the stereo nature of the microphone. So again, same volume settings. We currently have the manual volume setting on the camera set to 50%. We're currently set to 5 on the microphone itself. I'm holding it, by the way. I have it in crop mode on the Canon EOS R6, and this is currently set to 18 millimeters. So it's probably about a 24 millimeter field of view. So I'm holding it out with my right hand, so it's not very far from me at all. But I do have the Comica up top with the microphone cover on, so it's probably helping control some of the plosives and sibilances. You'll notice a much stronger presence of the audio as it's coming into the camera right now. And we're currently hitting about the green marks. It's probably about -12 dB on the camera itself. And this is how it sounds natively. I'm gonna go ahead and turn on the low cut filters. First filter is gonna be 75 Hertz. So we have the 75 Hertz low cut filter on. You'll notice a drop off of some of the bass tones. One of my things that I probably prefer to do is actually do the low cut in post, just so I have the range if I need it, but I can delete it if I don't want it. We're gonna go ahead and move to 150 Hertz. Now we're at 150 Hertz on the low cut filter, and this is probably a pretty good thing for people who need this audio if it's going direct to delivery. They're not going to be doing any post-processing with it. That's when this probably could be useful, or if you do have a really strong low hum in any of the audio that you're actually trying to get. So if you're outside and let's say you're shooting near a really low rumble of an HVAC unit and you want to cut that out so it's not even present in there and you can just get the clear vocals, this might be a good situation when you want to use it. And now we're back to the normal. As you can see, I really enjoy the full spectrum of volume that it's picking up. Again, this is the Canon EOS R6. This is with the Comica plugged in, and I'm going to unplug it. So now we currently have just the camera audio on the Canon EOS R6. So if you've ever used the internal microphones that are on these cameras, they're not great. They're intended really just to capture scratch audio, but if you want to have any kind of audio worth using, I can't recommend getting a top-mounted microphone enough. Some situations where you need the best possible shotgun mic or boom mic going direct into the camera so you're not syncing in post, you're probably gonna wanna get more of an XLR adapter. For the Sony, for example, the XLR K3M, or even getting like the situation I have right now, which is the H6 mounted on top, plugged in through that 3.5mm jack, and then I have an XLR out to a Sennheiser. It's gonna be the best situation to get you better preamps, a lower noise floor, something that's actually gonna give you quality audio going into the camera. So just something to be aware of. But overall, my thoughts. For the price point that you're looking at for a little microphone like this, I think it's absolutely fantastic. I was pretty impressed. I wasn't sure what to expect. I never am with some of these lower end microphones because I've actually tested some pretty crummy ones, but this is pretty stellar compared to even some of the competitors in the market like the Deity and the Rode mic. This guy is from the build quality to the battery life to the frequency response and what you're actually getting from it. I couldn't be more impressed for the price point. This definitely has a win, a buy from me. Again, some things to be aware of. The low end, really nice low end response, but as a part of that, one of the things you want to watch out for is the delivery format and whether or not you're going to have time to do post-production on the audio. Because if you don't have time to do post-production on the audio, then you might want to use that low cut filter, again, which I am not a super big fan of just because it cuts out too much of it for my taste. And that is something that I can just control in post with an EQ. So that would be my preference. Capture the full breadth of frequency that you could get with this, EQ it in post, and you'll have a pretty solid scratch audio track, or even some audio that you can use if you're doing, for example, filming fight scenes and things like that, or filming just run and gun stuff where you need good audio from the camera. This is gonna be a great, great option. And that's it for me. If you have any questions, drop them down below. And if you like what you see, definitely hit that subscribe button and ring that little bell like you're eating a grilled cheese sandwich. And if you didn't like it, try again next time. We'll see you soon.